And we're live here, folks. The watch along, a couple minutes late. We're ready to roll, though. Tennessee and Arkansas underway. Eric Lopez alongside Victor Anderson. We already have a surprise in the in the game in that Shanice Del's not starting for Arkansas in this one. Caminazino is pitching for Arkansas here in the third and final game of this series. This series split between the Razorbacks and the Vols. Tennessee winning game one, Arkansas winning game two yesterday, but no Dels at least to start.
Well, Eric, I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised, like you are. Honestly, you kind of want to see how the game plays itself out, and then if you have the late lead, you're Courtney Difu, you bring Delson, close out the situation, and give yourself the series victory of your Arkansas, and a nice start there, picking up the strikeout to get the first out of the game for Arkansas.
So one gone. So we'll be on here during the game. We'll talk about other topics in softball and also keep you updated. We'll see if we can have some guests or not, but should be a lot of fun there in Fayetteville. Big Monday night game. I believe this is the last Monday night
Yes.
SEC game. So, of course, a lot of SEC title implications in this game. With Georgia been on the bye, they've been following this series. If Arkansas were to win, that would tighten the race up between Georgia and Tennessee, among others, going into the final weekend. So we'll see what happens there. The ball's fouled off here. 0-2 count. There's one out here in the top of the first inning between the Vols and the Razorbacks. And that pitch is missed there. 1-2 now the count. Kenzie Donahue, Vols. First, this
Now,
one.
Eric, and I know we've talked about like all the additions that Tennessee has had with Gottschall, but Mackenzie Donahue, since he's coming to that program from Oklahoma, she's really been a nice addition to that lineup, providing some support for Kiki Malloy and the rest of that Tennessee offense. Very underrated her contributions to this Tennessee offense and the way they've been able to hit. I don't she hasn't gotten the amount of recognition for what she's been able to do for the team both on and off the field.
Foul ball there. 1-2 the count. Only
Now, for those of
softball game
you
of the night.
Yeah, for those of y'all who are joining us for the first time, first of all, we welcome you. We appreciate your support. We're going to be doing this a lot over the next few weeks, these live streams. So make sure you take the time out right now to go to your subscription, click on in the circle, turn on the notifications because we're going to be going live multiple times this month. And of course, our Inner Circle Live during the Women's College World Series. We'll break down all those details later on when it gets to that point. And of course, our Selection Sunday preview extravaganza tradition unlike any other. Get your comments in. Fang, good evening to you. Good to watch you. Good to talk to you. Bedlam watch along. We have that under the tape. We have that on in consideration. So we will certainly talk about that. If you got questions, ask us in the chat. We'll try to answer those questions as best as we can. We'll get to them throughout the broadcast tonight. And as Eric mentioned, we may have some guests join us. We may not. Also, we will say at some point during the watch along tonight, we will announce our guest for Thursday's episode. So stay tuned for that. And also, I will share a little thoughts on the Division Two side, D2 Tuesday. That's gonna be probably recorded later on tonight because I have some things going on tomorrow afternoon during my usual time where we record D2 Tuesday. So lots of stuff to get to. Actually, Eric, let's get to some of the questions right now in the chat. Of course, tweet at us and in the circle SB. Ask your questions in the chat. We'll get to all of them as best we can. Lucas Valencia with the first question of the night, Eric. Besides UCLA, who do you think will win the Pac-12 tournament? I feel honestly it would be a stunner if it wasn't UCLA and Stanford in the final. Although Ruby Milan in Washington with Bailey Klinger will definitely have something to say about that. But I feel those have been the two most consistent teams all season long, UCLA and Stanford.
Oregon, I would throw in there. I actually
Okay.
like Oregon right now. And that could be big for Oregon. If they would have a good Pac-12 tournament run, that could lock them up as a host. And
Yes.
Gibson just get a base hit for Tennessee here at the top of the first inning. So I would say UCLA is clearly the favorite, obviously, but I think, yeah, I think Stanford has good arms. Oregon, I would say, yeah, I think those four are probably your candidates there. Everybody else would kind of be a shocker at
Yep,
this.
I
So
agree.
first two outs. Here in the top of the first now is Zeta Pooney is now at the plate, the junior out of Carson, California, with one on, two out.
And I tell you what, Boggle Park, ever since we
Bogle, by the
got
way.
Courtney
Oh,
Thapolin,
it's Bogle.
but excuse Bogle Park. I'm sorry. So if you had 709 before I started ticked off a fan base, congratulations, you are a winner. Bogle Park, they really have come out and supported this program over the last few years, especially with what Coach Deifel has done with that tremendous success. And you can understand, Eric, why Arkansas they're going to be hosting the SEC tournament starting next week, and that will. And if you're Arkansas right now, you got to get yourself out of this early situation, first and second and two out.
Yeah, base hit up the middle by Pooney. So the Vols have a, two on, one out, or two on, two out here in the first inning. This explosive offense led by Chris Malvo, the hitting coach. And first pitch grounded to short. And a throw to first in time. And just like that, Arkansas gets out of the inning. So we're through the top of the first. This game's on SEC Network. If you want to watch it along with us, Mark Neely and Amanda Scarborough will on the call of this game.
And we cannot confirm or deny if there will be any little piglets that will be in the possession of Amanda Scarborough while she's broadcasting in the booth tonight, like you saw on her social media during the week, during Saturday and Sunday.
So Fag Night, by the way, you'll like this. Some of their followers coming up at about the top of the hour. We're at 8 o'clock. Our buddy Shooter Sean's going to make a visit here. A little celebrity. Talk a
Hey,
little Bedlam. We're going to talk a little Bedlam with him here, with the future
beautiful.
of Bedlam in the Big 12.
Yes, that's gonna be fast. Yeah, of course, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State playing this weekend. A lot of people felt that could decide who could be the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma State with their slide. It's a little be a little interesting. Eric had to step out to take care of some business. So we do want to remind everybody that we will be having our selection Sunday preview on Sunday. That's going to be May the 14th. So mark your calendars, May 14th. We will announce the time that will be having the live stream coming up within the next week or so. So make sure you plan your calendars and get everything ready for that. We will, of course, have our Saturday night spectacular. Myself, Eric Lopez, Justin McLeod, of array of guests to kind of give you the last minute thoughts of what will happen come Selection Sunday. We may do something on Selection Sunday morning, afternoon as well. We will see how that works there. Of course, make sure you follow us on Inner Circle SB for all information in regards to the show, what we got planned, things of that nature, etc., etc. As Eric is back with us after taking care of a couple of obligations,
Yeah.
as Carolyn Pickens will get the start, the freshman who's been a bit fine for Karen Weekly and this Tennessee coaching staff, and with her, Gottschall, and Ashley Rogers, that is a three-headed monster of pitching that very few can say that they have in college softball today.
It's good as long as they're healthy. Rogers
Yes,
looked
that's
pretty
the key.
healthy on for that. That's the kid. I'm not surprised Rogers not throwing. I think they're kind of resting her a little bit here to make sure for the long run here for Tennessee because they can get to Oklahoma City, but they got to get Rogers has to be healthy. So
Yes, they do.
and they have the arms depth to kind of try to kind of accomplish that. So we'll see what happens. So Pickett's getting to start here, Arkansas, but hitting at the bottom of the first. Here from Fayetteville with Reagan Johnson leading off for the Razorbacks right now. He's had a great year at center field. And we'll see. That's right, Fang. I was right about Oklahoma's pitching staff. We'll talk a little bit about that later on.
You were.
We'll get, yeah, that's what it is. Of course, Oklahoma pretty much has secured the Big 12. They've secured the number one seed.
Yep.
But this could be their last time they play at Stillwater coming up this weekend, which that series has kind of been deflated a little bit with the Cowgirls start struggling here down the stretch a little bit. That looked like what was going to be a giant matchup is kind of downplayed. It'll still be exciting. I'll be curious how Oklahoma State comes out, but Oklahoma certainly coasting. They have a midweek with Tulsa. They got rescheduled after last week's weather, so they'll play the Golden Hurricane tomorrow night, I believe. So Reagan Johnson with a grounder to short, throw to first in time to get the speedy Reagan Johnson, and so one gone here in the bottom of the first.
And right, and really, Eric, with Arkansas, I think the questions going into this year was how would you replace that tremendous offense and Mary Half in a circle? And they have done I will admit, Arkansas have done much better than I expected them to this year. Obviously, adding Christina Foreman and Halverson from South Dakota State via the transfer portal have really solidified things for Courtney Deifel and company. And Rylan Hedgecock, she's been a revelation, top three in the nation in terms of home runs with 19. And we'll see her in this next at bat here in the bottom of the first. And I do want to ask you this question, Eric, because I know we have a lot of questions in the
Yeah,
chat.
yeah.
We'll
There's a lot of
certainly
questions you got to get to there. Yep.
we'll get to that. Thankfully, we have time this evening. So I do want to bring up this question with you. Of these two teams, and if you want to answer in the chat, feel free. Which team is more likely to make it to Oklahoma City? Tennessee or Arkansas?
Tennessee, that's an easy one. I think they're the best team of the SEC when they're healthy. They have the offense depth. Arkansas is just too young. Too young. I don't know if they have enough depth in the circle. Yeah, Tennessee to me, that's the pick.
Okay. Is it more likely then that both teams make it to Oklahoma City or neither of them make it to Oklahoma City?
Either because Tennessee is probably going to get a very difficult region, as they always do, because of geography. And that's going to be a topic, I think, this offseason with the 400-mile radius, because
Right.
Tennessee is likely to get a team like Virginia Tech to come to their regional, or it could be an Indiana. In fact, could be both. Uh, so, among other teams as candidates, as there's a strikeout there for the second out of the inning. But they have a very difficult bracket there. So I would be more likely neither than the other two. Uh, let's see. Glenn Warshaw asking how many SEC teams will make it to the Women's College World Series. So I think your World Series contenders from the SEC. I think Tennessee is definitely a contender.
Yep.
I think Georgia's a contender.
Oh yes.
With their
With that off,
offense,
if
yeah.
the thing with Georgia and we had our annual season preview conversation with Amanda Scarborough, and she was very bullish on Georgia this year with the offense. If they could just get the pitching, and Georgia has been able to do that, it had been consistent with the pitching. That's been a big thing as Pickens gets a 1-2-3 inning to get them out the bottom of the first, scoreless at the one in Fayetteville. I feel Tennessee, I agree with you. Georgia, I agree with you. I think LSU is a contender for Oklahoma City with Pleasance and Kilponen, and never count on a Bethlehem team. Alabama, because they're probably going to be throwing Montana Fouts until they can't. Do you think Florida can make it? Because I'm one of those people, or until I see Tim Walton not in Oklahoma City, I will always give them a chance. But there has some moments this year where they have given me pause.
Well, right now they may not host a regional. They're 21 in Monday's RPI, so they will not be hosting when I have my bracketology coming out from that standpoint. So I just don't. They may not even host a regional. So
Wow.
if they don't host a regional, that's going to be hard for them to get to
Now
OKC
let
to
me
win a
ask this.
regional and a super on the road.
Yes. Now, and the interesting thing, if we talked about this in a previous episode, if Florida doesn't host, we're assuming they're likely going to get sent to Tallahassee in
I wouldn't
Florida.
assume that. No, I wouldn't assume
Okay.
that. Don't assume that. Uh, that's where it gets interesting because a lot of moving pieces going on here. Will Clemson host or not, for
Mm-hmm.
example? Because that could impact some things. You have Auburn as a possibility at going to Tallahassee. You have South Carolina can go to Tallahassee. UCF can go to Tallahassee. So, you know, they may. I think if Clemson does not host, all right, let's go with this scenario. Let's say
Okay.
Clemson does not end up hosting. Well, Florida and Auburn, one of them is going to have to fly because the only places those two teams can go to if Clemson can't host is Tallahassee.
Correct.
Florida can't even go to Clemson. That's over 400 miles. Auburn can go to can go to Clemson if they
Clemson.
have to. So that's why I'm saying it's not out of the woods. And again, they could just go with South Carolina to come to Tallahassee. So Florida could be that team that flies out to, say, an Oregon. If Oregon were to host, for example, because you're going to need somebody to fly out
Right.
there. It could be a Louisiana if the Cajuns tend to host, although I think that's more of a Baylor 2 seed range there if
Yes.
Louisiana ends up hosting. Look, Florida's hosting Florida State tomorrow. That's a big game. Then they go to Kentucky. Florida still can get themselves in the position to host, but if not, then they might be shipped out. I mean, that's the mathematics. Now, if Clemson is hosting, now the likelihood of Florida going to Tallahassee is much higher. So I think that the puzzles are still to be determined there. I wouldn't say it's a lock if they go to Tallahassee.
What do you think out of everything we talked? Is Clemson the biggest piece of that puzzle in determining where Florida eventually goes
I
on
think
Selection
Florida. Well,
Sunday?
Florida's going to determine their own fate, how they
Right,
play
right.
down the stretch. If they play well here, make a run the SEC tournament, they're going to get back to hosting. If they don't, then yeah, Clemson could impact that a little bit, depending on what Clemson does. Clemson's going to need a. One thing is clear. Um, as we do this, I have not decided on who my number 16th host site is yet. That's how hard
Oh,
this is. I actually took a nap because I needed a break because I've done my 64 teams in. That's done. What I haven't done is the brackets because I haven't been able to figure out the 16th seed. By the way, Tennessee gets a walk, then a ground out to short. So they got a runner at second here with one out here in the top of the second inning. But that is going to be the challenge. And, Oregon I have as a host. I'm debating between a Clemson, Louisiana, Florida's in the mix, but I don't have them in, probably not going to have them in. Auburn is still in the mix if they could get finished strong.
mm-hmm.
It is wide open for that 16th and host spot. So I decided to take a nap on it. And once we're done here, I'm going to probably cover the Arkansas post game to post that on our YouTube channel that you're watching right now. And
Yes.
then I will get back to work on the bracketology and make a decision, which is very difficult. This could be Louisiana Raging Cajuns is a very fascinating case because their resume is fluid in that they picked up 6 extra top 50 wins over the last week, which is unheard of.
What?
They went from 8 wins last week in the top 50 to
Okay.
14 today. They have 14 top 50 wins because McNeese moved into the top 50, who
Wow.
Louisiana beat 3 times, and then South Alabama snuck into the top 50. Louisiana swept them. So that's 6 top 50 wins that they have. And
Ooh.
I've written about this before on many different platforms
Many plat. You
in
named
the
a
circle,
platform.
fast
Not.
pitch news, extra innings, Justin's well. Usually for a non-power 5 team, the criteria to host, the metric, the numbers that they have to hit. Obviously, you got to be inside the top 16 host. Okay.
Of
Well,
course.
Louisiana's 11 as of Monday.
Let me get my.
Schedule
Let me.
strength.
Let me go ahead and get the pen and paper out because I'm gonna write these down and I need to know these numbers. So come selection Sunday night, because there's another team, Eric, that I haven't talked about right now, but I may bring them up later on, who may be in a similar situation. So the criteria for a non-mainstream 5 team to host, you said number one
They
had
got
to
to be
be
inside the top 16. Like there's never been a non-power 5 team host that was outside the top 16 in the RPI rankings. That's number one.
okay.
Like that, they're not. There has been plenty, obviously, of teams, and usually, if you're a number 1 seed hosting, it's going to come out of the top 19 RPI. The lowest team to host is 19. It's happened a few times. Georgia, for example, has done it, and so forth. But right now, Louisiana's at 11. Oh, wait,
Okay.
Tennessee's out of the inning. The Arkansas got out of the inning, so they're going to the bottom of the second. So we're fast moving over there, boy. So who knows how long we'll be on? But so you got to be inside the top 16. Every team, okay, any team that has finished in the top 11 in the RPI has gone on to host. That's why that number 11 that I just mentioned, that Louisiana is currently in, is important. No team that has finished in the top 11 on Selection Sunday in the RPI top 11 has ever missed hosting. So if Louisiana can stay in the top 11, that's a very good sign.
Okay.
I mean, it would be the first. It would, excuse me.
That would
I
be the
mean,
first time that would happen.
if
But
they
they
didn't
have
host.
but if you look at some of the losses that they have, you may be concerned that you gain the top 50 wins with McNeese, with South Alabama. We could be in the same situation next week where they may
Right,
lose
it could
those
drop.
top.
They could, yeah, exactly. That's why this thing is fluid, and that's why we've seen some of these weird like switches at the last minute hosting wise because this thing is so fluid that numbers drop. But they're in the top 5 schedule strength and non-conference schedule strength for them. Okay, right now for Louisiana, that's been their big thing with Jerry Glasgow, and I spoke to him about it. They're number 4 overall schedule strength, number 3 non-conference schedule strength. That's
Yes, that is
very
always
strong.
critical.
Their average RPI win is 88. 88.
Okay.
To put that in perspective, Oregon 93,
Okay.
Georgia 96, Clemson 109,
Ooh.
Wichita State, which has become kind of some of the media fans' favorite, 124. 124. They have Courtney Deifel mic'd up Monday. Auburn 108, Florida 95. Those are some of the bubble teams that Louisiana is up against. They have 14 quad 1 and 2 wins right now, which is not basically means top 50 wins.
Yes.
But you're right. What happens to McNeese? I think McNeese is a big, if you're a Louisiana fan, you are rooting for McNeese to win the Southland Conference Championship and stay in the top 50 because those are 3 valuable top 50 wins. I think you're all. What's interesting too in the Sun Belt this weekend, South Alabama is playing Troy.
Yes.
Troy is just on the outside of the top 50. South Alabama is 49, Troy's 52. Who you wonder what's going to happen in that series. Does the winner of that series stay in the top, lock into the top 50? Is there a scenario where both of them can maybe crack the top 50? Who knows? And then we go into the Sun Belt tournament. How does a South Alabama and Troy do? I think those teams have to win the conference tournament, but that doesn't mean that's not important how they do in the conference tournament. Because if you're in Louisiana, you need South Alabama, Troy, and Texas State to have a good Sun Belt tournament run so they can stay inside the top 50. Because
Yes.
if let's say they were to get bounced early, Vic, those top 50 wins go bye-bye. That hurts your that's a totally different resume. Now the mathematics have changed
Mm-hmm.
on you.
And that could potentially be the difference between you hosting at Lamson Park as or traveling to Baton Rouge and LSU.
Correct. So, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you some numbers here to put you in perspective. Last year, UCF
Mm-hmm.
went 13 and 11 against the top 50. 4 wins against the top 25. They went 4 and 7. Very impressive. It's at 46th strongest schedule overall, 16th non-conference strength schedule strength. Conference ranking was 6. Okay, they got it. They got into host in that scenario,
Okay.
which was huge. That was going into selection Monday. Uh,
Me selection
there's
Sunday, Division Two selection Monday.
right. That's right. There's so many selection days.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, next Monday, selection Monday, Division Two, 9:30 here on our YouTube channel. So make your plans accordingly. Get your breakfast, get your coffee.
Holy mackerel! Yeah,
Eric and I
well,
will
we're
be
gonna get we're gonna get into the story of the 10-year anniversary in a little bit.
yeah,
All right, so here's the
lots to
stat.
come on it. Lots to come on this live stream, folks.
Since 2008, there's been 10 11 mid-major teams now that have been nationally seeded in the top 16. All of them, okay, had 10 or more wins against the top 50, except the 2015 James Madison team with Megan Good and company that had 9. They had 9. That's the lowest, okay? 9.
Okay.
All of them have played in the top 8 conference RPI league. So those are the numbers I'm keeping an eye on.
Okay. So
Oh, oh,
essentially, the criteria per Eric Lopez, the Joseph Lenari, the tribal chief of bracketology, need to have a top 16 RPI as a team. Need at least 10 wins against the top 50. Quad one, quad two, however you want to define it. You need to have your conference needs to be a top 8 RPI conference. So those are the three main things you're looking
Yeah.
for a team
So
outside of
yeah,
the
right.
Power
'Cause I'm,
Five to be a host.
I'm going to read you the teams that have hosted in the last, some of the teams that have hosted. For example, James Madison, 2016, when they got to the Supers, they had 5 top 25 wins, 12 wins in the quad 1-2. Pretty good, 12. 36 schedule strength, 39 non-conference. The Colonial that year was the 8th strongest conference. James Madison got a 7 seed as a result. Tennessee just turned into double play to end the inning. Arkansas had a walk to start the inning, but nothing doing. We're scoreless through 2 in Fayetteville. Now let's James Madison 2015. I mentioned the 9 wins. They had 5 top 25 wins. That's what helped them.
Yes.
5 top 25 wins, 30th schedule strength, 38th non-conference, 7 RPI with the conference with the Colonial. Louisiana have hosted a bunch of times. All right. In 2012, Louisiana had 14 top 50 wins, 4 top 25 wins, 69 schedule strength, 44 non-conference, 7th the Sun Belt was that year. 2014, Louisiana, 9 top 25 wins out of 11 top 50 wins, 4th toughest non-conference schedule, 13th overall. The Sun Belt was 4th that year. So Louisiana got a 6 seed that year. South Alabama, 2013 hosted 5 top 25 wins, 10 top 50 wins, 56 schedule strength, 40th as far as non-conference, 6th strongest conference. They got a 13 seed that year. The one thing I'm worried about for Louisiana this year, if they were not to host, every team that's hosted has had at least 4 top 25 wins in their resume. 4. Currently, as I look up the Cajuns' resume here,
They have to have at least 2, I'm thinking.
I think they have 2 only. That's my one little caveat that could, if they don't get picked, they only have 2 top 25 wins, which is LSU and Florida in the RPI. 4 has usually got. So that could be what, if the committee decides not to, they don't believe Louisiana should host, that could be the stat they use, is the fact that they didn't have enough top 25 wins. And because I'm just reading it, every other team that's hosted has had at least 4 top 25 wins. That's in it. So keep that. That's the one thing. And the problem for them is I don't, there's not really, there can't have
There's
that.
no other chances to get a top 25 win.
But the other criteria is they have reached. Now I'm going to read you some of the teams that did not host. Of note, in particular, for example, as I read this off, UCF 2015 only had 2 top 25 wins, only had 5 top 50 wins. The American was number 9 that year. So that's one example there. Here's another stat for you of note. Every year since 2015, there's been one team that's inside the top 16 that has not hosted.
So every year.
Yeah. So for example, in 2015, Hofstra and UCF both were in the top 16 RPI. Hofstra's 13, UCF was 15. Neither of them hosted. That was the year, Victor, that UCF went to Florida State in that one. James Madison, ironically enough, was, I believe, 12 that year in the RPI, or 14, right there. In 2016, Baylor was a 13 RPI, did not host. 2017, Minnesota. Remember that one? They were 12. 12 RPI, did not host. James Madison, 13, did not host. 2018, Baylor, 14, did not host. 2019, James Madison, 13, did not host. 2021, Duke at 12 did not host. There's an asterisk there because they did not host. They were sent to Georgia because of remember those predetermined sites that year. Oregon did not host. They were 15. Remember, Texas hosted and they went there. Last year, it was Texas that was in the top 16 RPI that did not host. So that's So that if that trend continues, Vic, one of the top 16 seeds in that selection Sunday will not host. I think the popular thinking is going to this at this point has been that Louisiana is that team. It could still very well be. The question is going to be, and we may not know this literally until Sunday morning when I get those final numbers. How many top 50 wins does Louisiana have? This is non-negotiable. Louisiana has to win the Sun Belt Championship to stay in the conversation. Has to. Period. Top 50 wins, RPI ranking where it is for Louisiana, but they're in the mix to host.
Yeah, and based on the baseline of those historical stats right now, but the thing that helps in Louisiana's favor, Eric, if not every team that they're battling with, the Clemsons, the Floridas, the Auburns, the Wichita States, they have it's a but resume. You mentioned Louisiana. Yeah, they play a strong non-conference schedule, but they lack those top 25 wins. Florida, similar situation. They have all those wins, but they have some very less than appeasing losses. You can say the same for Auburn. You can say the same for Wichita State. If
Well,
you're
the problem
Wichita,
with Wichita State has 8 top 50 wins. Remember the criteria I mentioned. You got to get at
yes,
least
you must
maybe
have at least
9.
10 top 50 wins. You need 10
They have
top
8.
50 wins.
They have 8. That is the now they have 2 wins against Oklahoma State. That's huge.
And by the way,
That
for
does
those of you
help.
watching along, Tennessee with the first two on in the top of the third.
Yeah. So Wichita State has 8 top 50 wins, 3 top 25 wins. The top 25 wins is 2 against Oklahoma State and Arkansas. Uh, that's good. They need to win the American Conference Championship, and they need specifically to play UCF.
Yes, that's where I was going. That's
Yep.
exactly where I was going. Because of the
They
DUCF, that's another top 50 win that will bring them to 9 top 50 wins.
that
Eric,
could,
Eric, question: where's UCF in the RPI?
31.
Okay, that number could slightly go down because UCF is closing the regular season versus
Oh, it's going to
Memphis.
go down with Memphis unless maybe they don't play. Mother Nature may help, but yeah, that's going to be the story. There is that's the issue with Wichita. They actually could have been. As strange as it sounds, they could have benefited from playing that Oklahoma game. Because
Yes.
first of all, if you pull off that upset, woo! I mean, this whole dynamics change. Even if
Yes.
you lose, let's say you lose close, that's still pretty good. The other thing is it would have helped your schedule strength a little bit more. So, we'll see how that plays out. But that's where Wichita State is right now because them and Louisiana are in the mix to host. The other thing that Wichita could benefit from is, let's say, a team like Arkansas. Let's say Arkansas loses this game. And let's say they get swept by Missouri, for example, and bow out early in the SEC tournament. Maybe there's a switcheroo there that happens there where Wichita jumps
Potentially.
in and Arkansas jumps out. Remember,
Potentially.
Arkansas can bust to Wichita.
They
Now, the
can.
committee has said, again, we've had on our airwaves that there's a grounded to short, throw to first in time. It's a productive out. It'll be second, third, one out. But they've said that they do not look at geography. They go for the 16 best teams. And that's so keep that in mind. But, you know, if it's close,
I wish someone could get a meme of that face that I just made where he said they don't look at geography
I
just
mean, I'm
now.
just saying. That's what I'm saying. So we'll see what happens with that. But Louisiana's fluid because the unpredictability of this is what happens to McNeese. Does
Yes.
McNeese win the Southland? Can McNeese stay in the top 50? Those are 3 valuable wins. What happens to South Alabama? What happens to Troy? What happens to Texas State? How does the committee feel about Texas State? Texas State is 42 in the RPI right now. That might be a telling sign. I personally, I will give you this little exclusive here on the live show for those that are watching. I have Texas State in right now as the last team in the field.
Oh.
I wouldn't feel great about it, but I have the last team in. Now, the reason I bring that up is if the I think what could happen the committee, if they decide Louisiana is one of the 16 best teams, I think that's good news for Texas State.
Yep.
Because then I think that's a sign that maybe Texas State slides into the field because that's a quality 3 wins for Louisiana, etc. And they look at the Sun Belt very positively.
They do.
If the Cajuns are not hosting, that may not be good news for Texas State.
By the way,
But that's significant because if Texas State's in the field, those are 3 NCAA tournament wins in the field that Louisiana would have, which the committee does look into that as well.
I'm convinced Justin McLeod, who by the way is in Fayetteville watching this game right now, he's probably has the live stream on right now because he just tweeted 10 minutes ago. Texas State has the best chance of getting at large between Troy, South Alabama, and Texas State.
He's right.
Texas State has an RPI of 42, good wins, but also bad losses. Texas State this year is what Charlotte was last year. Great top 25 wins, but some horrible quad 3, quad 4 losses that will have them on the bubble come selection Sunday unless they win the Sun Belt tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. They have those great weekend in Austin. Oh, there's a ball to home plate, out, throw to first, out, double play, and Arkansas gets out of the jam. Deifel's fired up. We might hear that clip later on. Well, not us, but those of you watching. So we're still scoreless, heading to the bottom of the third. I thought you were going to say Justin was going to join us. I gave him the link. He told me he was going to, depending where, if there was a spot to be found, he was going to join us from Fayetteville, but no guarantees on that.
We shall see. Oh, by the way, for you D2 Tuesday, for you Division 2 people, we have our second official ticket punched to the tournament. Tampa got the first by virtue of winning the Sunshine State Conference Championship, taking a series versus St. Leo on Sunday. And Francis Marion want to send a congratulations to the Patriots for winning Conference Carolinas, having a battle out of the losers bracket and battle Mother Nature to get themselves the ticket. So we'll be talking about FMU on the Selection Monday watch along next Monday. Hey, it's nice to see a team named Patriots actually winning the postseason. Well, too soon.
Georgia, by the way, 2016 at 19, Notre Dame 2015, and Stanford 2011 all had a 19 RPI when they hosted.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see. That's a lengthy conversation on the Cajuns there, and that situation's going to look.
Lots of conversations. Let's pick up some more questions from the chat here. We appreciate all of y'all joining us. Now, Eric, you brought up Clemson. Brain brought it up. Does Clemson need to win the ACC tournament to host?
Probably. Maybe. Here's the tricky thing. And be prepared, Vic, because we're probably going to have a late night recording. I just realized this Sunday night. Because we got to get all the brackets for the conference tournaments. Because that's going to play a big role in this. Where is Clemson in the ACC bracket and who's in their draw? See, we get because we get caught up
sometimes on winning the tournament and things of that nature, but we kind of neglect the fact that who is in your path to win the tournament is more important than the actual tournament itself.
We learned this 2 years ago. Clemson got to the final, lost to Duke. They didn't host. You got to get some quality wins there. So if you're, part of the thing that's put Clemson in this spot is they've had the soft part of the ACC schedule this year. They did not play Duke. They got swept by FSU. They lost 2 out of 3 to Va Tech. They didn't play Louisville. I don't believe they played Notre Dame. I could be wrong on that. You can double check that, Vic. So they have had the soft part of the schedule. So if you're Clemson, you need some quality top 50 teams in your bracket, as strange as that sounds. Win those games and then make a deep run. And then if you make the final, and maybe in the final or win the ACC, yes, I think that should be enough for them to back to host. But
we don't know. They did not play. By the way, Clemson did not play Notre Dame.
So they didn't play Notre Dame or Duke. Nope. Got swept by FSU and lost 2 out of 3 to Va Tech. And they didn't play Louisville either, right?
They did not play. No, they did not play Louisville.
So that's the problem for them. Their non-conference schedule wasn't strong, but then he got the weak part of the ACC schedule. So it's a double whammy there. So until I see the ACC tournament bracket, I don't know what Clemson needs to do. I need to see what their bracket looks like. But yes, it's safe to say a winning the ACC tournament would go a long ways
Yeah.
into certainly securing that. And then the big question is with Valerie, this team was a super regional team last year. This team has more credit, street cred, if you will, than they did 2 years
Yes.
ago. Does that give them the benefit of the doubt? Obviously, we don't know. We will find out on Selection Sunday. But yes, a run to the ACC championship game and maybe winning it might be what they need to host. Otherwise, they could be on the watch list there. There's out there in the bottom of the third, but that's the story on Clemson. But again, we will uh, probably next Monday's show. We will probably have all the conference tournament brackets, and we'll go over them, Vic, and break them down piece by piece.
And the important thing is, Eric, if you're right now, Clemson is fourth in the ACC. So the way things break out, Clemson will have a first round matchup with Virginia Tech, and if they win, they will play Florida State in the
Wow.
semifinal. There's your path right there.
Yeah,
And
you win those
Clemson's going
two
to be
games. Yeah, yeah.
And Clemson is locked into and Clemson will likely be in that 4 or 5 matchup because they're done with their regular season. There's your path if you're a Clemson fan. You
Well,
beat
and here's the
Virginia Tech
contrast. Here's the contrast, Vic. What if they lose to Vodtech?
that will be 3 games. That will be 3 out of 4 games he lost to the Hokies.
And I think that would be it. I don't think they would host there in that scenario. That's a big game, probably ACC network. That's one to watch very closely.
Wow.
There's 2 outs here in the bottom of the third. Talia Rijo is the freshman hitting for Arkansas here. Home half of the third. 2 outs, although, let's see. The umpire is fixing his something, maybe his earpiece or something. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, go ahead. What's the next question? What else we got?
Okay, so let's go on. Thank you, Fang, for the question. Mark, 64 out of 64 on seeds again. Uh, if you heard our podcast, and Eric has said this many occasions, this is gonna Eric. I don't know if you somehow pull off 64 out of 64 a second straight year, I that will be just a drop the mic moment. Just walk away.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
tough.
with the unpredictability of who will be hosting, with the unpredictability of who will be atop a national seed, with the fluidness of the bubble.
Yeah.
If you pull off 64 out of 64,
No, this is a hard year. I mean, for sure. I mean, every year is unique. Every year is different. Last year was more about hosting that was difficult. The bubble I actually thought was pretty simple. This year it's a little bit of both. This one's a little bit both. And this is also could be a historic selection Sunday
how
because
so?
you could have a selection Sunday here. Is Florida has hosted a regional every year under this current format since 2005. They're in danger of that streak coming to an end. Arizona has been in the NCAA tournament every year since 1986. That is in jeopardy. In fact, on this week's bracketology, they will not be in my field of 60. That's will. Now they could get back in. They could get back in, but their RPI as of Monday is 50. 50. They host California this weekend. That is a must-series win for them. And then they got the Pac-12 tournament, Victor, which is a new
They're hosting.
wrinkle. It's a new wrinkle too, because will this help the Pac-12? Will this hurt the Pac-12? We don't know. We're going to find out. We've never gone through a Pac-12 tournament before. But Arizona's streak is in jeopardy. Florida's hosting streaks in jeopardy. Michigan has quietly, I was stunned. They're only 3 over 500. They're dropped to 39 the RPI. They're going to Minnesota this weekend. Now they have a couple of midweeks in between. But if they struggle at Minnesota's playing very well, they might be playing themselves into the bubble, which is kind of crazy to think about with Michigan. So that's how crazy this could get for Selection Sunday between now and then.
And Eric, we're forgetting about the most important thing. Arizona may not even qualify to make the Pac-12 tournament.
Well, no, hold on. Now we got Michelle Carlin. I want to verify. I've heard mixed things. I've heard everybody gets in the Pac-12. I heard one team does not get in. I think everybody gets in though. And first of all, right now Oregon State's in last, but so it would be them. But I think everybody's in because somebody brought this up to me, and I'm like, I
And
don't think
actually, you know
that's
what? You're right, because there's an
yeah.
8-9 game.
What? So
So
yeah,
essentially,
there's an
what they're
8-9
doing,
game. There's a
Eric,
playing game. Yeah.
right? So essentially, it's like the old, you know how like the old ACC men's basketball tournament. You have the 8-9 game, and then the winner will play.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you,
see,
Michelle.
I know what happened. What happened was, I guess Beth Mallins. I didn't see it, but just based on the text messages, because I was on the air, apparently Beth Mallins mentioned something this weekend on the broadcast that there was only 8 in the Pac-12. Obviously, that's not accurate, but mistakes happen. That's what it goes. But that is significant because if Arizona is in that 8-9 game, odds are that's Oregon State. That's not a quality game. That's a must-win for them. Now maybe they can move up because Arizona State being that factor. But
As of
that's
right now, Eric, Arizona and Arizona State are both 5-16. Oregon State is 4-16-1.
well, and Arizona State plays at Oregon State this weekend. The significance there is Arizona State has to sweep to get over 500. There are 2 under 500 right now. Arizona State, they have to sweep to go 1 over 500. Let's say they win 2 out of 3. That puts them at 1 under 500 going into the Pac-12 tournament, which means they're going to have to win 2 games, Arizona State, to be eligible for the NCAA tournament. That's why they're not even in my picture right now, because they're under 500. And you have to
Correct.
be at least 500 to be considered. But that could change because Oregon State plays Arizona State. If Arizona were to win the series against Cal, and then Arizona State, Oregon State beat each other up, then Arizona could jump to that 7th seed and avoid the 8-9 game, and then have an opportunity to get a quality game. They're going to play whoever the 2 seed is, which right now is either Washington or Oregon. And if Arizona were to beat one of those teams, that will help their resume a lot. But that's where Arizona is right now.
Yeah, right now Washington is the 2 over Oregon. Washington has the head-to-head over the Ducks. By the way, Arizona, in spite of them being tied with Arizona State, they have the tiebreaker. They took 2 out of 3 versus the Sun Devils. Washington swept Oregon. That's the reason Washington is the 2 and Oregon is the 3 in the Pac-12.
Michelle, are you going to the Pac-12 tournament? I'm assuming you're going. Tucson there. It's a beautiful place. We'll see how that goes. By the way, there's one out, top of the 4th, Tennessee and Arkansas. Good scoreless pitcher still here. Go figure.
Old school AC, old school SEC.
It's kind of no doubt, no doubt. You'll see, but that's the story in the Pac-12. UCLA lock is a 2 seed nationally. There's a ground ball to third, throw to first in time, 2 gone. Washington and Oregon in good position to host. Just keep winning, they'll be fine. I think.
Yes.
Stanford, I locked to host. Stanford trying to hold in there as a top 8 seed possibility. Those are the really the storylines in the Pac-12 as far as that's concerned. Cal and Utah are in my opinion, for the NCAA tournament. That's big. Utah hasn't been there since 2017. For Cal, that's big, potentially with Chelsea Spencer, getting her program back, her alma mater back into the field. And then all eyes in the state of Arizona. What's going to happen there with the Wildcats and the Sun Devils?
Yep. Has there ever been a tournament, Eric? I know you had to do a little bit of research. So since both teams have been playing fast pitch, have we ever had a year where both Arizona and Arizona State have not been in the tournament?
I mean, if it did, that was a long time ago, man.
Yes.
In the 80s. We're talking 80s. Stanford, Washington. That's a good point. That's a big series in the Pac-12 from a seeding standpoint and resume standpoint, right? Yeah. Big one here. We got a 1-2 count, 2 out here in the top of the 4th. Still scoreless, Tennessee and Arkansas playing here in the Monday night.
Let's
we'll
see. More questions.
What do you got? Yeah, what else we got?
Fang. Ooh. Alabama or Auburn? Who's more likely for OKC? Iron Bowl question here.
Well, it varies. I think it depends on the draw. The thing that Auburn, if they don't host, they're going to have to go on the road for the regionals and the supers. But, the way Pence's been pitching, They're definitely dangerous. Alabama, I agree with you, Vic. They're going to ride Montana Fouts. The big question, though, is do they have enough offense? That's what got them eliminated last year in the regionals against Stanford. And think about this: there was a hit by pitch there, so Tennessee's got a runner on at first with two out. But if Clemson doesn't host, there's a possibility that Clemson gets sent back to Alabama.
Yep.
We could have Valerie Cagle, Montana Fouts again.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! You could also have Clemson go to Georgia too if they don't host. So that's why Clemson's very interesting in this scenario,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. But I got to see what Auburn's draw is. Is Auburn going to Tallahassee? Is Auburn
Yeah.
going to Clemson? Is Auburn hosting? I think Auburn's a dangerous team for sure.
Definitely.
I'm going to go with Alabama just because, yeah, I know this. Alabama will be hosting. And Fouts will get the majority of the games, and she's as good as it gets. But, we had Gray Robertson on the show last week, and, they're not 100% healthy offensively yet. But, if they can just do it. Right now they're debating whether
I
what
think they're debating if they're going to need to go to video review to confirm the hit by pitch, possibly.
Right. Did it hit the bat or did it hit her? I think that's what they're debating there a little bit. So I'm going to lean towards Alabama. But again, Auburn, that's a good question. It's a very good question.
I
What do you think
will.
here? Do you think a hitter here?
I'm getting a better angle from here. The problem is, Eric, it's tough to see from those vantage points. So even if you go through replay, do you have enough angles to piece together to overturn the hit by pitch? That's the question. That's the thing. And being an official myself, thankfully I've had to go through replay, but the general rule is if you do not have indisputable evidence, then a call has to stand. But we will have to wait. We will have to wait and see about that.
All right. So they're still reviewing the play.
Now, also what they may also may be reviewing is that did she lean that left arm out in front of the pitch? That's another component they may be reviewing as well. Get your questions in our chat. We'll get to all of them. Eric will somehow ask this story about me and Rollins, but the way this game has been briskly played right now, I don't think you'll be able to get to it right now.
Call stands. So, yeah, I don't think
Yep.
there was anything there that could overturn. So, call stands.
Yep.
So, you got a runner at first with two outs here in the top of the fourth. Vols batting here in a scoreless ball game. Keep in mind, too, next week after this week, we're going to have a lot of conference tournament content on the YouTube channel as well as on the podcast.
Yes.
We're going to have different guests from various to preview various conferences.
We're
gonna break down the storylines there, and we'll get into it later. Obviously, we have a guest coming up in the future here that will be had a very good year.
Very good. Very good year.
So we're 1-1 count. You're in the fourth. Hard to believe the season's almost here. We were in May already. It's amazing how softball kind of goes by quick. That first month of February, after February, it kind of speeds up, man. It's kind of wild.
Jed Schroeder said the exact same thing earlier today. Like I literally felt like we just did our live season preview.
Yeah. So we're in the bottom. Got a 1-2 count.
So by the way, while we are waiting for, actually we'll make an announcement about what we'll be talking about on D2 Tuesday after this half inning closes.
Inning over.
Well, I am a man of my word, ladies and gentlemen. So coming up on our D2 Tuesday, we're going to preview all 8 regions, talk about the tournaments that you're going to need to look forward to in each region, and what ramifications will be taking place come Selection Monday. The storylines, the teams to look for, the tournaments to look for, all that's going to be coming on D2 Tuesday. It'll be out Tuesday afternoon on
Oh,
our
you
YouTube.
you got a busy Tuesday, don't you?
I'll be doing a lot of this Monday night as soon as on live stream. You'll be working on your bracketology. I'll be working on my D2 Tuesday.
Oh my
So
goodness. It's gonna be a long night.
it is.
There. What do we got? Suns. I have the Suns and the Nuggets to keep me company up late night. Is there any late
Yeah.
night hockey that we know of?
No, it only got one game 7 with the Rangers and the Devils.
Oh boy, I like having late night content on sporting events while I'm doing bracketology because it's gonna be late, and
Yeah.
especially that Saturday night one before Selection Sunday. Last year, I stayed up, Vic, to about 3:30 in the morning when I sent in my final bracketology.
What?
3:30.
I don't know how you do it.
Neither do caffeine, Sprite, so Coke to help partly.
Bless your heart. Thankfully, our guest is in the waiting room, so I don't have to hear about how you stay up at these insane hours on a yearly basis when you do your bracketology, sir.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little late night one. And of course, we do this watch along. Our guest is Mr. Watch Along. I mean, heck, the guy who I stole his idea from. I've
It's
been
not
on his own
it's,
watch along.
it's not my idea.
All right, so
I
full
stole
story.
it from someone who stole it from someone who stole it from someone. Whoever did the idea of like, I'm going to watch something and you watch me watch it. Somehow that
Yes.
works.
Correct.
People steal my bracketology stuff all the time. So
Speaking of Sprite, I got some right here. There's no caffeine in this, so it's not going to help you stay up. But
No.
all right, so folks, let me introduce you. Here. The audience may not know. This is Sooner Sean Forster, who does his own has an own Oklahoma channel, one of the most popular channels out there on YouTube.
no, it's
Former
not.
executive producer at 1080 with us. We used to do the Saturday shows together at
This
times.
this is true. And of course, OU would always have 11 a.m. kick or 11 a.m. Central kickoffs. So I'd be like, I'm not distracted looking up the ESPN tracker on what's going on. I'm paying.
And you're a former guest on this might be your first return visit in the circle since 6 years ago. I think we had you on.
Oh, the day when the trader took over.
So full story. I'm gonna go behind the scenes here. So back then, Victor and I had to record the show from the studio. We had to wait for the studio to end because with technology, we didn't know about what we were doing back then.
This.
Anyway, so this was it was the 17th title, right? When Oklahoma beat Florida, and you were on the studio. And he said, "Hey man, you want to come on to talk about Oklahoma winning the national title?" We're like, "Sure, man. We'll just stick around after the show because you were producing Tuck and O'Neill, I believe, at that point."
I mean, I was,
or at least that day.
I filled in.
Or maybe you were filling in for. I think I was producing. You were swinging back.
Someone was filling in for someone.
I remember calling from home. That's what I did. So
that's what it was. So I was producing. Maybe that was the one I was producing. Anyway, so we have all this lined up. It's the Wednesday after Oklahoma had just beaten Florida, and we have all this set. And what happens that afternoon? Breaking news! Oklahoma football coach Bob Stoops announces he's retiring.
And I'll never forget that day because the first thing I saw on Twitter was not any of the news. I checked my notifications and I just saw a couple there, and I checked the first one. So what are your thoughts about I'm the only one.
There you go.
You're in the spotlight, man.
Oh, okay. I thought I'm not used to this. So I look at my Twitter reactions, and I saw just a person who follows me. So, what are your thoughts on Bob Stoops retiring? And I thought it was a hypothetical question, and I didn't respond to it. I was like, I'm not going to answer that. That's not going. And then literally, I go down my timeline. I'm like, oh, that's new, and so I did the only thing I could do. Make a silly little 30-second joke video, and
then I had to talk you in, like you were on the feds, where you were kind of in shock. And then you did eventually do the appearance.
It was new. This was like a Bob's not coaching. Is that allowed? I mean,
what?
So that was your one infamous appearance on the In the Circle podcast. That was 6 years ago. We had you on. And I think we did talk about the national title, but we did talk about the Bob Stoops thing at the same time. It was a very bizarre episode.
It was. How could you not? It was it set so many things in motion.
Yes.
But now I'm here to talk about OU softball and their dominance, and
Yes. And to promote the fact I'm going to be joining your stream. This is like a home and home. I'll be back on your stream Thursday night. We're going to preview Bedlam.
Which is not one versus two.
No,
so,
it is not. Oklahoma State has kind of ruined that.
So I have to make an admission on here. Like the last couple weeks for me have been a little bit of a haze. So now I watch OU softball, whoever they play, because I have other things I have to do. It's the off season. I have some free time from football to an extent, so I watch OU play, and sometimes I'll have them on in the background while I'm doing other things because they're going to take care of business. I had no idea OSU lost a couple of games. So a couple of videos ago, I'm like, hey, we're going to do Bedlam watch along 1 versus 2. Some of the comments like, you haven't been paying attention, have you? And I'm like, I don't have, that's the thing. And this is going to come off as cocky and arrogant, but like, I don't have to pay attention to other teams if you're an OU fan. This is cocky and arrogant. I'm going to say it up front, but if you follow OU softball, it doesn't seem to matter the past couple of years. It really doesn't.
That's fair. By the way, Vic, tell me, we just had a breaking. Arkansas just hit a 2-run homer.
Yes.
To take a 2-0 lead. You let me know who hit that home run.
Are they going to transfer to OU next year?
No, there's this Joe. You two.
There you go.
You get on. Vic gets freaked out when you tweet that out, man. You get on his head.
Yeah, Sean and I had a conversation about that, about one of his tweets last week.
But the thing is, the reason it affected you so much because it's partially true. These things have happened recently.
They have.
All right,
that was Ryland. By the way, that was Ryland Hedgecock who hit that home run.
She's been great. Yeah, she's been big for the Razorbacks.
By the way, Eric, that 2-run home run, gentlemen, she is now tied with Hannah McEwen for most RBIs in a single season for Arkansas at 57.
Just a quick hop on I-40, and she'll be in Norman and.
All right. I wanted to have you on though.
Does this count as tampering? Because we don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to get eliminated.
I'll make these decisions.
He's not a booster, so I think we're good. But I did want to have you on.
Just briefly, I gave $5 to an NIL collective once, so I guess I'm technically a booster.
There you go.
Once.
So I wanted to have you on because I do want you to ask you to talk about Bedlam a little bit from this standpoint. This could very well be the last time Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play in softball at Stillwater in the regular season from that standpoint. So there's still significance in this series, even though, yes, the balloon has kind of been popped with Oklahoma State struggles. It's not going to be as big. It's not even going to be as big as last year's meeting. Remember, we did a watch-along, Sean, for last year's meeting because the Big 12 title was on the line last year. Not the case this weekend. Still, I'm curious for the emotions of this because – there's been a lot of talk, obviously, on the football side, which you cover very well. But this could be big from a softball standpoint. This could be the last time they played in Stillwater. You follow this on a daily basis with the two schools and all that moving forward. What do you think is going to happen with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and the other sports? And if you want to include football, that's fine. But what's going to happen to Bedlam here when Oklahoma's in the SEC and Oklahoma State's in the Big 12?
I mean, I'm not going to pretend it's going to leave a little bit of a hole inside the state because you have these businesses that are built around Bedlam. You have the house divided stores and stuff like that. So the one thing in college sports, I think for a lot, not just Oklahoma, like if you have a bad season or for whatever reason, there's one thing that always save your season, beating your in-state rival. So if you have a down year, you can't do it. It's like, oh, you had a crappy year last year. We still got to beat Oklahoma State. So we had something to hang our hat on. It's like, all right, it's crap. We beat Oklahoma State. It's going to be obviously worse off for OSU than it is going to be OU because OU is they're going along with Texas, and they're going to have so many more friends to play with that are going to they're going to have some battles with in football. But I think it's a loss for the other sports. Basketball. I think the one thing that people forget about is like, well, the Big 12, football is going to be so-so, but the Big 12 was the most complete top to bottom basketball conference in the country. And you lose, Oklahoma's not the top tier, but every once in a while they get up there and do something. You'll have like a run with like a Buddy Hield or a Trey Young, or you go all the way back to the mid 2000s. But you're not going to have the SEC is going to be, I don't know. You'll have Kentucky, and Alabama's kind of okay in basketball, but it'll be a different world to live in. But I think for softball, it's going to stink. You're not, there might be some non-conferences. I mean, hell, OU plays an 84 preseason pre-conference tournament, so maybe maybe they'll meet up in one of those.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think the other sports will follow whatever football and basketball do? Do you think, because sometimes schools do that where, hey, we're not going to play them in any sport. Or do you think it's a sport by sport decision?
That's tough because, you look at it on a case by case basis. Texas and Texas A&M had their issues. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head if other sports played. You guys might know better than I would do if they played each other in softball.
No, they really don't. They
don't play each other unless they're assigned in the same regional.
Okay, so that's the thing, though. So I think it's usually so the story is always, well, one school doesn't want to do it, but the other one publicly says or whatever. It's always a back and forth thing. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, I hope there's something they can do. But I've been pretty open about working from the football side of things. This is going to me coming off as an arrogant Sooner fan, but I'm not going to miss playing Oklahoma State football that much. It was great at the time when it was just like, all right, I love playing Oklahoma State when it was a big win we could get to propel ourselves to the Big 12 championship, to propel ourselves to a BCS game or a playoff or whatever. Because we always seemed to need that game. We needed that final push to get ourselves. OU's not going to need that final push. They're going to have more than enough opportunities in the SEC for football. But yeah, for softball, OU's going to like hell, like the SEC with softball. I mean, could be a better.
The tricky thing, because I asked both Patty Gasso, Oklahoma head coach, and Kenny Gajewski about this prior to. Kenny wants to continue to play, which obviously that's not a surprise. Probably Kenny Gajewski is former Sooner. That's what's so unique is Kenny Gajewski is a former Sooner baseball player, part of the '94 Oklahoma national championship team, has been part of that Gasso tree, if you will. Patty was not committal about it, just didn't know what was going to happen. One concern is, are these two teams, as Victor alluded to, could they be now with being in different conferences, they could get paired up in a regional or super. Then the question becomes, Oklahoma is obviously going to have a new stadium opening soon. How many home games does Oklahoma play? Would both
12?
12, maybe hopefully more. Would they want to play, for example, a midweek game? Would they want to play, for example, in Oklahoma City, which is what Fang Nai is suggesting, kind of what Oklahoma and Texas did this year for the first game of the conference series? There's a lot. How do they both coaches want to do it? There's another part of this, which is how long is Kenny Gajewski going to be at Oklahoma State? How much longer? There's some rumblings that, certain major jobs could open up, that Kenny Gajewski is going to be a top candidate elsewhere, which could also change the direction of this conversation.
Well, are you trying to tell? No, let me not open up that can of worms.
Let me just say this, Vic. If the rumors I'm hearing are accurate and happens, remember those plans of us having an off season, taking a break, not going to happen.
We talking? Okay, moving forward.
Moving along. So anyway, there are some logistics there that it's going to be interesting to see how those two schools. And I think it's important. This has become a big game in softball. Through monster ratings last year. We'll see what the ratings are this year. They played in the Big 12 title game last year. They could play each other in OKC again. It's become a big rivalry in softball.
And that's the thing, though. If both teams continue to play at this level, I think for a lot of fans, they're going to play in OKC anyway, or at least they'll both be there. Whether they match up or not is a whole different story. But you're kind of dependent on that for the time being, it seems. But I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, if there's no ill will for the individuals' other sports besides football and basketball, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I don't make these decisions. So,
but the problem is, Sean, it's always football that's driving the decisions and filters down for everybody else. Look,
and amen to that.
Texas and Texas A&M is the perfect example of that. I remember watching that final game they played on that Thanksgiving night.
But you got to remember, those were insane old Southwest Conference schools. I mean, you could take teams out of the old Southwest Conference, but you can't take the old Southwest Conference out of those programs.
Which means, correct. Correct.
So, like everyone says, "Oh, the SEC is so corrupt." Well, you need to watch some 30 for 30s and learn how bad the old Southwest Conference
Amen to
was.
that.
Hello, Pony Excess. You're
Yeah.
welcome, America.
Teams that had losing records were slammed, were cheating, and they still couldn't win. That's what I loved about
Oh
it.
my goodness.
Guys were getting paid at TCU; they still couldn't get a winning record in the '80s. So,
Yeah.
Look, people are getting paid NIL right now and can't even get a bowl game with all the bowl games we got in 2023.
Sup, Miami?
Oh yeah, Tennessee goes 1-2-3 in the top of the fifth. We're going to the bottom of the fifth already. Arkansas with a 2-0 lead. Courtney Deifel, the head coach of Arkansas, by the way, former Sooner assistant, kind of guess, Brad assistant there. Yeah, right. Oklahoma State could try to do what Florida State has done in softball, play late in the year as well. That could be, again, there's a lot of options. It's going to come down to what is both sides feel it's the most fairest way to do things from that standpoint. Because I know for years they would play a couple games in one park and then the other park, and then they've made it a 3-game series. So that's why this is significant. This weekend is what's going to happen with this series. I mean, next year they'll play again at Norman in the final year of the Big 12 for Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma will be off to the SEC, and who knows after that. So this is it'll be interesting to see if we'll see if the media addresses this and asks them the questions this weekend. That tough Oklahoma media, you know very well, Sean.
Well, there's been a big shift in there's been a game of musical chairs as of today.
I know. What is going on there, man? What's going on there?
Well, the worst kept secret for the past 6 months was that the Rivals guys were going to move to On3. And now that's happened. So, and then the 24/7 guys moved to Rivals, and it's just and I'm just like, can I get one of James Hale's old Burger Kings that he embezzled money from in the 80s? That's all I want. I just want to charge something.
Oh, wait, are you aware, Sean? Since obviously not, because you did not know that Oklahoma State lost a couple games. Oh, the Big 12, as of today and as of last week, as a matter of fact, is the #1 rated conference in college softball, ahead of the Pac-12 and the SEC.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's. What did Patty Gasso refer to them as, the Beatles, or
they're the Beatles? Yeah,
they're the Beatles of the sport, and it's. I just think, I had a chance to have Plank on the channel about a month
ago.
Plug your
channel, by the way. Plug your channel.
My channel is it exists. It's ONIKUNO Onikuno. You'll trust me, if you search enough, you'll find my stuff. But did an interview with Chris Plank about a month ago, and it's just I can't let this go, because they lost that game to Baylor, and it's early in the season. It feels like it's hard for me to imagine them losing a game the rest of the way at this point. Just how good the pitching is, because there isn't a weak pitcher on the staff. The hitting can come from anywhere. One day it's Jada Coleman, one day it's T.R.A. Jennings, one day it's Lee, one day one day it's Brito. Doesn't matter. There's not one or two people you can focus on. We need to walk this person. So it's just, I don't know how you get around beating Oklahoma. You literally have to get them on an off day.
No, you're right. Look. You've joked about this on Twitter about how should Oklahoma just get a bye?
I don't understand why are we just gonna ruin some poor other teams like Day? We're gonna have regionals and super regionals. It's like, just give them a bye to OKC.
I mean, it's their national title to lose. They have, and we talked about this. Remember, I was on your show before the season. I said this could potentially be the best staff they've had in a while. Patty Gasso was great, and look at it. They got all 3 pitchers made the top 25 finalists for Player of the Year, which is kind of insane. I don't know how you pick a player for Player of the Year when all 3 of them are in there, but they did. And
arguably of all of them, if you ask me which one, Nicole May might have the best shot of the 3.
Might be Storako. Who knows? But the
point probably Storako, but it's like Nicole May was like, I mean, she got through almost halfway through the season with a 0.0 ERA, something crazy like that.
Like ERA.
Yeah, it's just and if they beat Oklahoma State and sweep them this weekend, they'll have beaten over half the top 10 right now.
Yeah, no, they're the heavy favorites.
So
they're going to be the heavy favorites, and
Eric, you know what the scary thing is? Jordy Ball is starting to hit like the Oklahoma Sooner offense, along with the arm.
And I brought this up to Eric preseason. Do you think are we going to see Jordy Ball start to hit this year? And slowly she's getting worked in. So it's kind of like that old movie. It's that old '90s movie, The Scout, where Brendan Fraser is like the guy in Mexico, and he goes and finds him, and it's like, oh, not only is he a great pitcher, he's a switch hitter.
You're like, what?
He's an elite pitcher and also an elite switch hitter.
You got Shohei Ohtani over there, Norman and Jordy Ball.
Yeah, exactly. So
Arkansas has a runner at first, 1 out, bottom of the 5th, still up 2-0.
They rescheduled that Tulsa game for tomorrow.
Night, yeah.
So they'll have so again they don't leave the state for the rest of till the end of OK. Yeah,
they will not leave the state for the remainder of the year.
No, so they go to Stillwater, and that's the extent.
I think they will drop a game at some point this weekend. I think they'll.
Eric, what are you saying? What are you telling me, Eric?
Send all your tweets to Eric Lopez Elo, ladies and gentlemen.
And I don't
the
think
views and opinions of that of Eric Lopez. Hey, Sean, I have to give the disclaimer. The views expressed of Eric Lopez do not necessarily reflect the views of In the Circle, any of his guests, or their affiliate YouTube channels. Actually, words, Sean, please.
I totally agree with that.
Remember last year they lost to Oak State in the Big 12 tournament title in the extra innings there. I could see them dropping a game this weekend and then running roughshod of the Big 12 tournament.
This weekend?
Like the Sunday game. Like a...
Ooh. You're trying to hurt some feelings here.
We'll see.
Trying to hurt some feelings. I mean, they do have some unfinished business. They didn't win the Big 12 technically last year. Technically. Regular season they did, which
won the regular season, but didn't win the tournament.
This is what I hate about the other college sports is that we have to give out 2 trophies, one for the regular season and one for a tournament. And in football, you just get 1 trophy. So they got that part figured out. They decided, is it regular season or a conference title game? Whichever is which. Conference title game, you get a trophy. You're the champ. Boom.
Yeah.
1 trophy, 1 champion. So I guess the other sports forgot that 1 true champion motto they had a few years back.
Yeah.
God. 1 true champion. Can we get Baylor and TCU into the playoff? No. We're putting it Ohio State.
All right.
Yeah, so Stevens required.
Couple more things, and then we'll let you go. Tennessee, we're going to the 6 in Fayetteville. What is this, 2005?
They played more than 6 innings in softball?
Yeah, that's just true. Yeah,
y'all have it's something that Sooner fans aren't used to, particularly in the last few years. Softball beyond the 5th inning.
I don't get it.
So 2 quick things before we'll let you go, because this game's moving quickly. Much quicker than I think we anticipated, to be honest, on the show. They're like Vic, we may not literally get to all our content that we were planning on. So next year, OU is in their last year in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. We don't know officially yet the schedule. I have been told, not that you might care, Sean, but the Big 12 volleyball schedule will come out in May. Softball schedule probably comes out in the fall. There's a 50-50 chance, let's just go with that, 33%, that Oklahoma could come to UCF for softball. I'm saying 3 of us, maybe a little on location show.
Ooh.
Huh?
Didn't someone slip a note on my door and said that was official and said from anonymous that was official?
Anonymous GM?
I could have sworn some anonymous person slipped that on my door.
Did they say anti-quote before? Did it start with anti-quote?
Anti-quote. That just gave me an idea, guys. Oklahoma just winning the national title every year. What we should do, we should create a new national championship so other teams could compete and win for it. Because Oklahoma just doesn't leave the state. It's unfair. Because they got that sweet deal, that sweet contract. We should create a new national championship for everyone else to play for. It makes perfect sense to me.
For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about and you're not wrestling fans, this is over your head like a rise ball going to the backstop. So we apologize if you check out for a few moments.
I thought you gave up on WWE.
I have. It doesn't mean I don't read social media.
So okay, so I have to so Sean, I have to ask this question. If Oklahoma softball is the Roman Reigns, I presume the state of Oklahoma is the island of relevancy. Would that make Chris Plank the special counsel?
Ooh, special counsel. That's I could see him in that role. I could definitely see him in that role.
Okay.
Definitely. Now, okay. So, but they're going for 3 in a row, which has only been done once before by UCLA.
Yes.
I tried to look it up if I forgot. Has anyone gone like with was the best record is like 2 losses and however many wins? I think.
Yeah, 3, I believe, is the record.
So that's the goal. If they can stay 2 and under in the loss column, that would be another accolade potentially. I'm all about getting accolades. You know what? That's gonna be like our 1,000 days. You know what I mean?
Well, you should do you should do this. I'm going to give you content idea for your YouTube channel. You should count the amount of days you've been the national champion.
Yes.
That could be your Roman Reigns. That's a good.
And you should have the video with the Sooners walking out of Oklahoma City with Roman Reigns theme music.
Who's the Solo Sokoa of Oklahoma?
Ooh,
a recent addition.
Haley Lee,
Stracco, maybe. You know, it's got to be a transfer. It's got to be a recent transfer. Sanders, maybe. Newest member. We don't have a Sami Zayn anymore. So I don't know.
There's a ground out. There's one out here in the 6th inning. What about Patty Gasso's comments? So I don't know. I'm going to give you the story, a backstory on this, Sean. Nebraska's announced that they're going to play a volleyball match at the football stadium.
At Memorial Stadium.
I know.
Apparently they've sold 82,000 pins.
Oh, boy.
Right? So Patty Gasso said she knows what she's got to talk to her AD about.
Hey, yo.
They are not fitting a softball field in that stadium.
There's no way there is no way in any conceivable fashion you can fit a softball stadium on Owen Field. That's like
having a bowl game at Yankee Stadium. Oh wait, they did
that's like a hockey game.
That'd be like having a bowl game at Fenway. Oh wait, they did that too.
Are you gonna tell Patty no? You're gonna tell Patty no?
Listen, I love this team. I think the fan base is growing every year. You ain't putting 80,000 in for OU softball game.
Are we sure?
They ain't there yet. Not yet. They're not there yet.
What's the max? What do you think they could draw? I mean, hypothetically.
Let's pretend. All right, let's pretend if they could actually squeeze in a softball field, and you have to do some sort of cricket thing where you run to first base and then back to home, run to first base, back to home, or something like that. 20-30. I'll give them credit. I'll say 20-30.
May I provide a proposal? The ballpark at the Brickyard, right in downtown OKC.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be on campus though. I think the idea is to have it on campus.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna do that, you might as well do it at home.
Hey, Sean, put it to you this way. At least at Owen Field, you'll have some room to play with. You ain't pulling that off. If OSU ain't pulling that off in Stillwater. In that bandbox of a football stadium.
You talk about leaving the conference. Like Oklahoma State's not gonna be able to charge people season tickets for access to the OU football game in Stillwater every other year. They could be able to pull that crap anymore.
What does your baseball stadium hold for OU baseball? What is the baseball stadium?
I don't know off the top of my head. So
maybe play there. You could you'll draw better than the baseball team. Right?
I mean, they're getting a brand new toy to play with for next season.
Eric, how about Oklahoma State figure out how to stream both baseball and softball at the same time and not have to choose between one of them?
I'm talking about Oklahoma now.
Oklahoma doesn't have that problem. Oklahoma State does.
Mackenzie Dehana, your girl there is with Tennessee, by the way, Sean.
There you
go. No selling that. Holy smokes. All right, tell the audience here. We'll let you go because I'll join you on Thursday.
I think most of the people already know who I am in here, to be fair. So,
yes. You know who he is, and you know why he's here.
You're going to have to give me the breakdown. You're going to have to tell me, by the way. I want this answer for Thursday's live stream. Why? Okay. How did Oklahoma decide to fire their soccer coach or part ways or whatever term you want to use in April?
which is very dangerous because that Peyton Bowen's girlfriend entered the portal. She's on the soccer team and she entered the portal. And
Oh, there's a
people
football.
freaking out over that. It's like,
All
wait,
right, we gotta get into that. We gotta get into that. Save that for Thursday.
Yeah,
Save
save
that
that
for
for
Thursday.
Thursday, please, gentlemen.
So tell the audience one more time where they can find you because I'll be joining you on Thursday.
um,
And
oh,
then what coverage? Because you're gonna have coverage at OU softball in the postseason.
yeah. So, my ONIKUNO Onikuno. You'll find my OU stuff. It's everywhere on the YouTube. I cover off-season news for football. Been covering softball a little more this year. I have Eric on the channel every week. We talk stuff. We'd always talk college sports news, college football stuff as well. And for the most part, it's May. I'm happy it's May because it's a full month of softball, and then we'll until we get to about mid-June, and then it's all full speed ahead for recruiting because June, July is a great high school football recruiting. Those are great That's a great stretch for recruiting because and lots of good stuff's coming for OU. We're potentially gonna get our best E-line class of the modern recruiting era this year. I can't wait. David Stone, Williams, and Winari, come on down.
All right. Well, save it for
come on.
Thursday.
Hey, Sean, save it for your own YouTube channel, sir.
Hey, I'm trying to give you guys the rub, man. It's all good.
All right, Sean. Well, appreciate you taking the time. I will see you later this week. And you two get along on social media, will you?
We will.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
See ya. Meanwhile, Tennessee has 2-on-1 out here, trying to draw a threat here in the top of the 6th. 2-0 lead for Arkansas, but the Vols trying to muster some offense. Vic, they've been shut down in this whole game.
Yeah, they've been really been. They have not had any answers right now, but maybe towards the third time through the order, and he's Courtney Doubtful finishing up her meeting in the circle, pun intended there. See what could happen, and this is the best chance Tennessee had since they had the bases loaded and they hit into that any double play to keep the game scoreless early on.
Yeah, we're in the top of the 6th. Tennessee 2-on-1 out. And the pitch is 2-1 the count. I wonder, is Dels available to close?
That's the thing. But the fact that they showed her in the dugout earlier in the inning, jacket on, probably is a sign that Coach Steifel will likely not want to use her tonight.
It's a ground ball to second. They get the out at first. So it's second and third, 2 outs here in the 6th. So a big spot in this ball game. Well, she's got to be thrilled with what she's gotten in this game.
Absolutely.
So that's probably why. So there's 2 outs. So you get the grounder to second. And
now,
Tennessee, though, base it with it from tying this game up.
Yes. A little interesting note that I want to bring up for fans, just to keep in the back of your mind.
We're going to make a pitching change here.
Oh.
Courtney is going to the bullpen. Let's see. And standing ovation for the young pitcher who was fantastic tonight against one of the most explosive offenses. Yep, Dels is coming in. So she was warming up during that inning. So Shanice Dels will come in to come out of the bullpen here in the top of the 6th. 2 outs, 2 on to close this out. 2-0 lead. But what a fantastic outing. But go ahead, Vic. As you were.
And so, we were talking about Camazino, by the way, getting the ovation for
rightfully so. To throw basically 5 2/3 of shutout balls. She is responsible for the 2 runners on, but she was magnificent against this offense. And that could be significant. That's been the question for Arkansas is can they get that consistency out of a number 2 pitcher?
Yep, and if she can pitch like this, like Dels pitched with half last year, then Arkansas, I think they'll have a great opportunity to make it back to Supers and get to that next level, which will be the Women's College World Series. So I do want to bring this up. Justin McLeod tweeted this just over 20 minutes ago. So last week, Mississippi State adds a road game at Samford. 3 days later, Mississippi State finishes their sweep versus Kentucky. and guarantees that they'll be above 500 on the season. Would you like to guess, Eric, what happened next?
Yes, I predicted it. This would happen.
Today, Stanford, just a half hour ago, Stanford says schedule update. Thursday's home game with Mississippi State has been canceled.
Shocker. I thought it was an overreaction to even schedule the game because, and this is the problem, everybody's obsessing about finishing above 500. My thing was with them was because their RPI was in the mid 50s last week. I'm like, they got to win SEC games, period. Doesn't matter if they're over 500 or not. They got to win SEC games to get back in the field. And they did that. They swept Kentucky. They got one more series. So I have them in the field this week. But yeah, that was overreaction. You didn't. Stanford wasn't going to help you there. So anyway,
No.
That's the silliness that we have.
And I do want to stress, because they did show a graphic of the SEC bracket if the season ended today. Mississippi State will play Mizzou in the opening 12-13 matchup.
It's a big game. Here's a Dells gets a pop up. Oh, they're going to let it go foul. It fell in the ground and it went foul. Smart because they wouldn't have been able to get the play there. And so the count is 1-1 to the former Arizona transfer, which has the long name. It's not.
We're not going to try to pronounce this,
Gianna
folks.
Kustopoulos.
Bless you.
I actually had to call. I had to pronounce her name a couple years ago when Arizona played.
Oh, Arizona played at UCF.
Yeah, Hannah Caminizino. A lot of vocabulary today.
Vowels, a lot of vowels. I would like to buy a vowel, please.
Dels is ahead 1-2 here in the 6th. This pitch might determine where we go with this content the rest of the show.
Yep. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm rooting for Dels to get out of this inning.
She got a strikeout and gets out of it. We're going to the bottom of the 6th. Arkansas leads 2-0. Wow, they're 3 outs away from winning this series. And boy, that would tighten up things in the SEC regular season.
Tennessee will have, so that would guarantee Tennessee will have to win the final series of the regular season to win the SEC regular season and get that 1 seed in the conference tournament next weekend in Fayetteville.
All right. So while they go there, we're 1 week away from Selection Monday.
We are.
Division II, Victor. 1 week. How are you feeling about
I feel very good. I mentioned earlier in our live stream that Francis Marion punched their ticket to the tournament. They won the Conference Carolinas tournament earlier today. Tampa, by virtue of winning the Sunshine State Conference regular season championship, they're one of 2 Division II conferences not to have a conference tournament. They won the series versus St. Leo, so they will get the automatic bid. Second straight season, Tampa will win the conference championship. They shared it last year with Nova Southeastern. Nova Southeastern got the auto bid virtue of the head-to-head. Tampa will have it all for themselves this year. No sharing whatsoever. And I feel, Eric, with the series win, I think Tampa has locked up the number 1 seed in the South region. I'll be intrigued what happens for the 2. Does it go to St. Leo? Does it go to Alabama Huntsville? I'll have a lot to think about when I talk about my mock rankings coming up on D2 Tuesday, which will be coming out tomorrow on our YouTube channel. Follow us on our social media to find out when that will be coming out. And also, I do want to bring up this one little tidbit. The Pac West, they're having their first ever conference tournament this week. Concordia is the number 1 seed. Biola is the 2 seed. Biola currently number 8 in the West regional rankings. So if Biola makes a strong showing, I think their bid in the tournament will be secure in the West. So I'll talk more about that on D2 Tuesday coming up tomorrow. By the way,
yeah. Good.
No, Eric, by the way, I was mentioning the SEC standings. If Tennessee loses, there will be a game and a half ahead of Georgia.
Right, they need 2 wins. They'll need 2 wins next week.
Yep, as we said.
Or Georgia losses, magic number 2, basically. Arkansas would be in the mix there to host, not to host, but get a bye.
Yes.
In the SEC tournament as well. So it's 2-0 Arkansas batting here. Do you anticipate any surprises, any Monday like we had 10 years ago, Vic? 10 years ago.
I had a feeling you were going to bring this up.
I got to bring this up now because I don't know if we're going to have time later this week because your schedule's busy. So 10 years ago, folks, Is there's a comebacker to Pickens. Guy, what is this? Who says we need a pitch
Hey,
clock?
hey, Ark, keep it up. Thank you. I greatly
What are you?
appreciate it.
What are you in? What are you in a rush to watch the Raw draft? I mean, my God,
I'm
Austin
gonna rush to
Theory.
eat. I'm gonna rush to eat dinner. What do you think?
Oh, you
In
me
a
both.
rush to
You and
record
me
these
both.
two and
Yeah, you and me both.
prepare for a broadcast tomorrow. I got a lot on my plate,
I'll
but
be up
not on
till
my
three.
actual
I'll be
plate to
up till
eat.
2 in the morning doing the bracket. But anyway, so
10
years ago, 2013, you were the voice of the Rollins Tars.
Yes, I was.
Going into that selection Monday, explain to the audience where they were ranked in the
Okay.
regional rankings. Now, and then I'll pick up give us the picture of where we were at
Okay.
going into selection Monday.
So, for full disclosure, and again, I'll be referencing this on D2 Tuesday tomorrow. In the South region, you're likely going to need to be ranked inside the top 7 because the SIAC champion, which is the conference of the HBCUs, will be the number 8 seed. Rollins entering that weekend was 6 in the conference, 6 in the region. Rollins lost the series versus Florida Southern. They beat, I believe it was Albany State to close out the regular season. Yeah, they beat Albany State to close out the regular season. So going into selection Monday, and I distinctly remember this. Eric is laughing his tail off.
I knew it. Just go ahead.
Hey, get another comeback or 2
Meanwhile,
out.
there's 2 outs. Yeah, there's 2 outs here in the 6.
So I'm talking to Eric Sunday night, and I'm thinking, okay, they're probably gonna go to either Valdosta or
That's the beautiful
Huntsville.
thing. Wait. So you tell me my job is to tell you where they're going because you were at a job at the time where
Yeah,
you could not see the selection
Yeah,
sheet.
I could not. Yeah, they have a very strict internet policy at
Right.
my previous employer.
Right. So you told me I have to do me a favor, get up, watch the selection show, tell me where they're going because that was going to impact. You had to either put in time off or I don't know what your traveling
Well,
plans,
it was
basically,
one of those
right?
things where if it were going to Valdosta, I was going to likely travel with the team, and I was going to go to Huntsville. I was going to be on my own. So
Correct. So you told me, all right, and it wasn't a question of if, it was like, all right, when they tell me where they're going, you were
I
100%
was,
convinced they're in,
I
right?
was, because Rollins at that time they had finished 44-8. They were 17-7 in the conference. Now I do want to stress that they did lose 2 out of 3 to Tampa. That was at home, but the Tars without their best player at the time, Christy Hofer, who suffered a hand injury, cost her a month of the season. So we get to selection Monday, and it's about 10 o'clock where the show's going on, and
I'm
I can
watching the show. I get up. I think I was at the radio station. I'm watching the show. And I think we had agreed either was I just going to message? I don't remember if I was going to
I
call you or
think you
I
were
think it was
gonna
a
call. I
message.
think you
A
were gonna
message.
call me.
I think it was a message. It was a message. I remember.
Message or call? Yeah,
You depending on what your phone situation was.
right.
Anyway, so I'm watching the show. It goes through. I know the region I'm looking for. There's no Rollins. I look back again just to make sure. And then you're like messaging me because it's at this point the show's over, and you kind of know the show's over. And you're asking me, so where are they going? I'm like, I don't think they made the field. And you're like, what? They didn't make the field. And you're like, and I'm not going to use the language you used, but needless to say, you were
Beep
not
beep
amused.
beep 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 beep
You
beep beep beep
you
beep
thought I
beep
was
beep.
making up. You thought
I
I was
was.
pranking you.
I felt
And
like I was. I felt like I was talking. I felt like it would have been Morse code if you would have heard a conversation and the words that I was saying that could not be repeated on this. I could repeat them, but I will not. It would be like beep 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 beep. I was
So I
not. I was
read
not.
you. I read you the region, the teams that were in. I read you the teams. I texted that sent you the teams that were in. You told me he's like, give me a few minutes. Apparently, you told me later you stepped out of your workplace. You actually went outside, correct?
Yes.
What did you do? Pick it up from there.
Okay, so Barry, who was outside of the top 8, I believe they were ninth, jumped
Yes,
all the way to
yes,
6
yes,
and knocked Rollins out
yes.
of the regional. And I still, and trust me, I don't bring it up to Amy Halpin, Tara Turner, Hannah Lovestrand, all those girls, because they they thought they were probably feeling just as confident as I was that they would be in too. So the season ends, they don't make the tournament, and I fully believe that had Rollins made the tournament, and by the way, that was Nikki Fogel's freshman year in 2013.
So who Barry ended up playing where?
Barry ended up going to Mount Austin State.
Lost, right?
Yeah, well, went to a barbecue, which
But
made me
you
very,
took
very happy.
But you were living that money. You're not even telling the folks. You apparently you made some phone calls or something. I don't know what happened. And next thing I know, I heard back from you like later in the day, and it's like that's BS. I can't believe it. I think you even were still talking about it later. That was a good thing. If we had a podcast that back then, oh my god.
If Inner Circle was if D2 Tuesday was a thing in 2013, folks, if everyone remembers the famous or infamous episode after the selection show where Minnesota was not selected as the top national seed and had to go to Alabama,
that was a
and
fun one.
Eric uttered the words, and I quote, along with Victor Anderson, I'm a pissed off Eric Lopez.
That's right. That's correct.
Take that rant, put that in a microwave, add 3 sticks of dynamite, a bottle of gasoline, and pour it and put it and light a match to it and set it on for 20 seconds. The eruption that would be taking place would have been me on that if that episode.
Because you were looking at the number. It wasn't like you just there's 6. You know what you just couldn't understand why.
As the kids like to say, the math wasn't mathing. The math did not make sense. So
now there's been a lot of rumors and innuendo since, theories. One of them being that Barry had a representative in the committee and that perhaps they did them a solid there. That has not been proven.
I cannot speak on the things that I do not know or what would be insinuated.
Let me ask you this, because you've obviously studied this. You do your own projections now. 10 years later, is there anything you know now doing the prep that you didn't know 10 years ago that maybe could have given you a hint that maybe Rollins was not going to get in?
Probably the fact that Rollins lost to both Tampa and Barry in the head-to-head.
But how much is head-to-head? See, this frustrates me.
But again, and this is the problem. It's the inconsistency in what you use and what you don't use to determine, in this case, the 7 best teams in the region, because you're going to have an automatic bid be the 8 seed. It's what metrics you use to separate, okay,
what did Barry do to jump all the way from 9 to 6? What happened to 7? What happened to 8? What happened?
Right, and if I recall, I believe they play like a non-D2 school and split a doubleheader with them that final weekend. So I'm feeling like, okay, you can understand why I felt good. And that took a complete 360, 24 hours later.
It changed your life in a lot of ways, right? Because you're a lot more cautious now. I've noticed over the last handful of years on your D2 predictions. You're not as flamboyant, or I don't know, that's a bad word. That's not a
confident.
Right. You're a lot more cautious in your forecasting because of that experience, aren't you?
I would tell them, hey, you might be in, but watch out for it. Exactly. And I said it last year. If you're blankety, by the way, Ashley Rogers, we thought we weren't going to see Dells versus Rogers.
She's not coming in. She's not coming in.
Okay,
it's
never
somebody
mind.
else. I think it's Gottschall that's coming in. Well, let's see. Let's see who this bringing in.
I thought Rogers. I thought they were going to see. Yeah.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. Wow. Okay, so it is Ashley Rogers. Go figure. She's coming into relief.
Stuff happens.
2 out in the bottom of the 6th. The only thing I could think of is maybe they want to get her some reps as a reliever because you might need her in the postseason.
Or you want to keep this game manageable.
Well, that too. But I'm saying that's interesting. I'm a little surprised by that. But yeah, 2 on, 2 out. So pitching change here for that. Has there been a decision since in the last 10 years in Division II that's come close to that? That's kind of shaking your head.
Not that I can recall. There was one year where I remember it was actually 2015. It was 2015 or 2016 where St. Leo got hot down the stretch and just missed the tournament, but Florida Tech somehow got in over them. That's the closest thing I can recall to what happened with Rollins in 2013.
Is there a scenario that could play out similarly this year? Do you envision, is there a possibility this year?
Doubtful, but again, it all is based on what teams win the conference tournaments and get the automatic. I'll give you a perfect example. In the West region, I talked about the Great Northwest, the Great North, the GNAC, the GNAC. Northwest Nazarene won the regular season championship. They'll be the one seed in the tournament in Surrey, British Columbia, hosted by Simon Fraser, starting on Thursday. If anybody other than Northwest Nazarene wins that tournament, they're in. Is at the expense of Northwest Nazarene? Is at the expense of San Francisco State, who's in the CCAA tournament? Is it at the expense of Biola? Now, Biola can win their way in. They have to win the Pac West tournament. That means they will likely have to beat Krista Rosenthal and Concordia once, possibly twice, to do so.
All right, we got a walk here, so the bases are loaded now with 2 outs with Rogers in. That was a quick 4-pitch walk. I don't know if that was purpose or not, but it's bases loaded. 2 outs here in the 6th.
Keep in mind, Rogers did come in and inherited a 2-0 count. So,
that's a good point. So maybe they just said, let's just walk her and get a force out at every base.
Exactly.
So bases loaded, 2 outs here at the bottom of the 6th. That ball's in the dirt, ball 1. Your comments about Nazareth last week made some headway over there. They were like, and people wanted to know, to expand on why you think they're so vulnerable. Why could they be vulnerable?
Because a team that is outside of the top 10 and wins the conference tournament is guaranteed a spot in the regional field. So that's why I'm saying if you're Northwestern Nazarene, you got San Francisco State behind you at 7. You got Biola at 8. Actually, let me pull the regional rankings right now while I have a moment here, because that's going to go a long way in determining what happens. So in the West, you got Northwest Nazarene at 6, San Francisco State at 7, Biola at 8, Azusa Pacific at 9, and Cal State Monterey Bay at 10. If any one of those 4 teams win their conference tournament, they're automatically in. That's why I said if you're Northwest Nazarene, it will be in your best interest to win the conference tournament. That way you're assured a bit, because you can't until you see, and as I just highlighted from my personal experiences, until you see your name on the bracket, don't assume that you're in the field of 64.
So there you go. All right, I'm glad we got that story in. I don't know, maybe you'll be able to cut that segment in there and throw it into the D2 show as well for those that might missed it. Meanwhile, Rogers is 2-2 the count here. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Bottom of the 6th, Arkansas 2-0, trying to break this open. You're in the 6th inning. And the 2-2. Oh, changeup, strike 3, frozen. Rogers, vintage Ashley Rogers, gets the strikeout. Strands the bases loaded. We go to the top of the 7th. Last chance for the Vols. Malloy will hit in that 7th inning. So last chance for the Vols. They'll face Shanice Dels.
Yes. Now, I do want to continue my conversation about the West. And
thank you, Bradley. By the way, Bradley Carroll congratulated me for the first perfect game I've ever called. In fact, not only the first perfect game I've ever called, but the first perfect game I've ever watched in person. Have you ever seen a perfect game in person or called one in person, Vic?
No and no. I've called a couple. I don't think I've ever called a no-hitter.
What?
No.
Really?
I don't think I have.
You never called any of the UCF no-hitters, like the Cup, the Enders, any of them?
That was probably Matt Dunaway who called those no-hitters.
None of the D2s? Nikki Fogel, speaking of which?
Nikki Fogel. Nikki Folk, the closest I recall Nikki Fogle having a no hitter was one of her first starts back in 2013. She had a perfect game. She was 2 outs away from a perfect game. It was a ball hit over to second base, ball kicked away from the glove. They call it an error. She got actually no. She I did call a no. I did call a no hitter for Nikki Fogle.
There
So
you go. I was gonna say.
I had to retract. Now I did the closest I came to a perfect game also was ironically enough my last season broadcasting at Rollins in 2018. Rollins, you want to bring it back full circle? Rollins faced Barry.
Wow.
It was a Friday night. Grace Street was pitching, and she had retired the first 18 Buccaneers she faced. She ended up giving up a couple of hits, and Rollins eventually wound up winning the game. That little did I would realize at the time that would go on to be the last games I ever did as the voice of Rollins softball before I transitioned to my time at St. Leo and now my work during working at Stetson.
Top of the seventh, Del Stivler, first pitch swing and a miss, 0-1 the count. Here in the top of the seventh, there is Amanda Allen is hitting the DP, will be followed by Malloy. Here in the seventh, last chance for the Vols here. We were going to get into more about Sarah Willis's perfect game. I actually had a guest ready to go to who's there in person to talk about it. However, this game's gone fast. So it's kind of like if you watch K-Rod, which nobody does, but I do. I'm probably the only one. K-Rod. So Michael K. So they've had to preempt guests because the baseball game they were doing went so fast that they just didn't have time. So the guest that I have lined up for the Sarah Willis perfect game chat is probably going to get preempted here if Arkansas closes this out. Just saying. So there you go.
Maybe we could let's do this. Why don't we extend them a rain check and have that guest, whoever that person
strikeout, 1 out.
Whoever that person may be, why don't we invite them on to one of our selections Sunday?
No, it's not that important of a guest. Not that.
Oh, okay.
We got bigger guests planned for that, my friend.
Okay.
We got bigger guests. By the way, I mean, we're literally 2 outs away from this game ending, Victor. We want to make this announcement about our future guest, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, let's make well, it's fitting because the guest that we have on Thursday knows a thing or two about winning on a Monday night in that very park. Coming up on Thursday's episode, we will talk to the head coach of the new A-Sun regular season champions, Central Arkansas, Jenny Parsons, will be joining us on Thursday to talk about UCA, their tremendous 2023, and what will hope to be the start of a long, sustained run of softball in the month of May. Coach Jenny Parsons from Central Arkansas, our guest coming up on Thursday's edition of In the Circle.
0-2 count, 1 out here in the seventh. You know, the big question with Arkansas is going to, with Tennessee here, Victor, too, is, you know, with their non-conference schedule a little bit, they're kind of like in that 8-9 range RPI-wise. I have them higher than that. They might not get as high of a seed as people think. They may need to have a good SEC tournament to secure top 8 seed. There's a strikeout for Delft, and the Razorbacks are an out away from winning this series, and I think pretty much close to locking up a host regional.
Yep,
winning this series, that'd be huge. Shanice Delft has had 3 strikeouts since coming in relief in the top of the 6th. So 2 outs. And the Vols taking a strike. I mean, to shut down this Vols offense has been impressive to see. Needless to say, Mackenzie Donahue, the former Sooner, is at the plate. 0 for 2, has been hit by a pitch tonight. She's got to get on base here to keep this game going. Bring the tying run to the plate. But Dels is just throwing strikes, piping up the strike zone here, Vic.
Hey, Courtney Daffa knew what she was doing. I actually talked about this, Eric, at the onset of our live stream tonight. If Arkansas has a lead late bring in Dels to close it out, and she's doing that right now.
Good year to be in the state of Arkansas pitching with Delst and Beaver and Johnson of Central Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And Donahue pops to short, and the catch is made, and the ball game is over. And the Arkansas Razorbacks shut out the Tennessee Volunteers 2-0. First back-to-back 3-game series wins against Tennessee in school history for the Razorbacks. How about that? And if you're a Georgia fan, you're still alive in the SEC regular season title. Going into the final weekend of the regular season before the SEC tournament will be back at Bogle. Big win for Arkansas after dropping the first game of the series to win the next 2 games, and the Vols a rare series loss. So old school game, Vic, less than 2 hours.
Wow. I mean, we're gonna be done right.
We've just preempted a guest. We've preempted my
did.
guest. I just told him he's out. He's not coming on. He'll never come on. I mean, this was just one shiny moment. Didn't happen.
Nope.
All right, and that's going to do it for us. Give me your final thoughts here. This is, I mean, we thought that, quick, old school game. Great pitching by Arkansas.
Yes, tremendous pitching by Arkansas. Congratulations to Ryland Hedgecock. Now set the tie the single season record for RBIs for Arkansas. Tying Hannah McEwen with that 2-run home run, which proved to be the difference this evening. And tremendous pitching by both sides, and a big win for Arkansas after losing the first game of the series on Saturday. And now if you're Georgia, you have a chance to win the SEC. And if you're Tennessee, you got to win your final series to get yourself in. Essentially for Tennessee, the magic number now is 2. So a win and a Georgia loss, or if you win the series this upcoming weekend, you win the SEC regular season championship. And Arkansas, chances they still have a chance for a first round bye in the SEC tournament.
All right, so that's going to do it for here. Keep it on In the Circle here on the YouTube channel. I'm actually going to try to pop in on the Arkansas post-game press conference. If it works out, I'll upload that on this channel as well. Big series win for Courtney Deifel and the Razorbacks. Then I'm going to go ahead and work on the bracketology because I have a deadline. I have to get it out there by till Tuesday on Next Reading Softball afternoon. That's the goal. So I got to work on that tonight. We will have a regular In the Circle show. We mentioned who the guest will be, barring any other breaking news. That will be the guest as well. And Victor's got to get to go working because he's going to work on your D2 show.
Yep. Yes.
Final week. Give us an idea where we're headed with Selection Monday list a week away from tonight. This morning. It'll be a Monday morning show. Come on. Can we do a Monday night show, guys? Seriously. Why do we have to do 10 a.m.? Of course, they had that weird year 2 years ago. They did it on Sunday night after the Division One.
The same night as the Division One show, which, yeah.
Shanice Dels is being interviewed, rightfully so, closed the game out, but great pitching there. So keep it on In the Circle podcast and on the YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot of content as we get into postseason, a ton of content as well. So, Vic, our first watch along, a lot faster. Boy, faster than I thought. For sure. We'll see if we do others as well down the road. But hey, this was entertaining to interact.
Yeah, great job. We appreciate everyone watching our feed tonight. Thanks to Soon and Sean for popping in and spreading the gospel of Coach Gasso. I think we just call the Oklahoma Sooners the Roman Reigns of college softball.
Rightfully so. And sorry, Bryson. Bryson turned Black Oak Banner at. You were going to come on the show, but this game went long, so you're preempted.
Sorry, Bryson.
Anyway, for Victor, who's going to get to work now on his D2 show content, and for me, Eric Lopez, we're going to be working on my bracketology. We hope you've enjoyed this watch-along edition of In the Circle.
Good night, Canada.